dang. Okay, Baltimore Orioles. I see you having a week. Yeah, the Orioles. I mean, Orioles fans in general, you're having a pretty awesome week here. Sorry I had to touch my hair. It looks horrible. I need a haircut so badly. No, it's been a while since you've really seen me on the channel, but this hair has got to get shorter. This is just terrible. Regardless, you're not here to listen to me talk about my hair and needing to cut it. You want to hear about the Corbin Burnes trade because this is some of the biggest news of the offseason. Besides the Juan Soto and Ohtani stuff, there really hasn't been anything particularly juicy. I guess Yamamoto as well. But Corbin Burnes being traded is something that was always a possibility, and now he's going to be traded from the Milwaukee Brewers to the Baltimore Orioles in exchange for Joey Ortiz, DL Hall, and the 34th pick in the 2024 draft. But that does change the trade a little bit. It does help out what the Brewers are getting. Obviously, I'll tell you what I think about it on the Brewers side. I'll tell you what I think about it on the Orioles side. I'll give you my thoughts and opinions on everything in this trade as I always do. And I appreciate you guys clicking on the video and watching here late on Thursday night, the first day of February. Love to get the month started with some actual fun baseball things to talk about because, again, this offseason has sucked. Not even just for a Mets fan, but for baseball in general, it has been pretty terrible. So Corbin Burnes, one of the best pitchers in all of Major League Baseball, whether you think he's the best, whether you think he's the 5th best, the 6th best, the 2nd best, he's a top 10 pitcher at the absolute worst in the league. And he's going from the Milwaukee Brewers in the NL Central, debatably the 2nd worst division in all of baseball, to the American League East, which is arguably the best division in all of baseball. You've got the Yankees, you've got the Blue Jays, you've got the Rays, you got the Red Sox. All 4 of those teams are competitive baseball teams. I don't care if you think the Red Sox are going to be bad or if you think the Rays are going to take a step back. They are just better than most of the teams in the NL Central, especially the last few seasons. That being said, Corbin Burnes is one of the best pitchers in the league, and he's going to Baltimore. Camden Yards, which you guys know, that left field is just absolutely cavernous out there. It is going to be huge for him going from Miller Park, or whatever it's called, American Family Insurance Park now in Milwaukee. It's always Miller Park to me. He's going from Miller Park, which was one of the more hitter-advantageous parks in the National League Central, to Baltimore now, where nobody's hitting home runs to left field. You can kind of just completely take away that side of the field offensively for home runs. And Corbin Burnes, who's a guy who, I don't want to say struggles with home runs, but has been susceptible to giving up the long ball in the past, this is going to be huge for him, on top of the fact that he is just one of the best pitchers in all of Major League Baseball. Going into a contract year, this is a match made in heaven. The Orioles were a team that was competing for the World Series last year, one of the best, exciting, young, fun teams in the entire sport, and they just got even better by adding Corbin Burnes, something that this rotation has desperately lacked. Because while guys like Kyle Bradish are very good pitchers, Grayson Rodriguez, 2 guys who I had inside my top 30 starting pitchers going into the season, they're not enough to really lead this rotation to what they probably want to achieve, which is going to be a World Series. Because offensively, we know this team is absolutely loaded. With Gunnar Henderson, with Adley Rutschman, Anthony Santander, you've got Ryan O'Hearn, who's been a godsend in that lineup. You've got Austin Hayes, Cedric Mullins, Ryan Mountcastle, Westberg. Maybe Jackson Holliday gets called up and plays shortstop on opening day. They have an exciting, fun, just really, really good offense and so many prospects waiting in the wing like Colton Cowser, Heston Kjerstad, Kobe Mayo, just to name a few as well. Where they needed help was pitching, and clearly Corbin Burnes is going to be a huge help. I mean, people kind of considered last season to be a down year. Here's what Corbin Burnes did in a down year, guys. This is disgusting. And he's going to be in an even better pitcher ballpark than he was in Milwaukee. Last year, 193 innings, a 3.39 ERA with a National League best whip at 1.069. Nice. While the K rate was down to 25% for the first time since the 2020 season, he still really wasn't walking anybody, a walk rate under 8.5%. And we know that the Orioles organization has been able to get more out of their pitchers. Not that they need to with Corbin Burnes, because he's very, very good, obviously, a Cy Young Award winner. But I feel like whatever issues or problems, or even maybe just the fact that the Brewers weren't willing to pay him, despite him clearly deserving a big long-term contract, maybe he just didn't want to be there. He was kind of like, Milwaukee's going to trade me at some point. What is even the point? And we see that finally come to fruition. He's going to Baltimore. This is just such a perfect fit. I love Corbin Burnes being in that orange and black for the Orioles every 5 days. A guy who, since his Cy Young season is basically averaging 188 innings per season, something that the Orioles just desperately need, some consistency with the ability to be not only an ace, but one of the best pitchers in all of Major League Baseball. This trade for the Orioles, immediate A+. A+, A+++++. I don't know how many A pluses or signals I'm going to throw on the screen here, but this was a phenomenal trade, absolutely a no-brainer. Now for the Brewers, I'm sorry, Brewers fans. I'm not going to have that same kind of excitement. I will say, you got some players back here in that 34th pick. Could end up being pretty valuable, especially with where it falls. It could be a high school guy who you thought was going to maybe sign for more money. Drops a little bit. You can sneak away a guy there. But really, at the end of the day, this is more frustrating because this Brewers organization and this Brewers ownership continues to show you, as Brewers fans, that they're just not really going to spend money. Corbin Burnes was going to hit free agency. We know that. It was inevitable. He hired Scott Boras to be his agent. Scott Boras clients, especially good ones, do not signed contract extensions during the season. They always hit free agency. Corbin Burnes had made that very clear, especially because the Brewers had been fighting him over nickels and pennies in arbitration the past few seasons. He was not happy with it. For one of the best pitchers in baseball, I totally get it. So the Brewers were kind of screwed here because it's an organization that historically doesn't spend a ton of money. Corbin Burnes wants a ton of money. He's already disgruntled with the franchise, and he has the most powerful agent in all of sports. They kind of had their hand forced a little bit here in that they had to kind of trade Corbin Burnes at some point this season. The Brewers by no means are a bad team when they had Corbin Burnes. They're definitely a lot worse now without him. I'm not going to count them out by any means, but this definitely makes them way less likely to make the postseason this next year. I'm not going to count them out. Again, my predictions come out a little bit later in the year. But losing a guy like Corbin Burnes for this rotation is going to hurt them a ton. They still have great depth. They still have great young pitchers. Corbin Burnes is one of the best pitchers in the league. Now, let's talk about the players that they got back. Joey Ortiz. Joey Ortiz is someone who I think I'm probably a little bit harsher on than is necessarily deserved. Typically with me, with prospects, I'm always looking at ceiling rather than floor, and I think Joey Ortiz is a guy who has a lower ceiling but a higher floor. Something that makes a lot of sense for Milwaukee to go after. You're going to have control over him until 2030, so for the next 6 years, Joey Ortiz is going to be playing essentially free middle infield for the Milwaukee Brewers, something that makes sense with Willy Adames coming up on a contract year as well. He could be someone that maybe they're looking to move in the near future before the trade deadline, especially if they're not competing for a playoff spot. And Joey Ortiz is someone who should probably just start playing every single day this upcoming season at the majors. He got a little bit of a taste last year with the Orioles, did not look great, and he is a bit of an older prospect. He's going in his 25-year-old season, but he did crush AAA last year, and relatively speaking, he's hit at every single level, has a solid glove. Again, this isn't a guy who's going to ever, I think, reach the heights of a Corbin Burnes, that kind of just value, but he's going to be a very solid major league player that's going to slot in every single day for this team. And then DL Hall is the fun one, because DL Hall very much has a build of what the Brewers have been after in the past. Big left-handed pitcher who throws absolute gas. I mean, DL Hall can touch 100 miles an hour, and he does have the prospect pedigree. In the past, he was one of the top pitching prospects in all of Major League Baseball. Now, we are a few years past that, going into his 25-year-old season as well, but another guy you're going to have control over until 2030. He was used mostly as a reliever last year with the Baltimore Orioles, and that makes sense. He just really didn't have the consistency that you need to be a starting pitcher right now at the Major League level. Maybe the Brewers see something that they can fix him, turn him back into that starter, but realistically, at the end of the day, you are getting someone who could have absolutely disgusting stuff from the left-hand side out of your bullpen, a la Josh Hader. I'm not going to say he's the next Josh Hader by any means. I think that's a lazy take, but the idea is that you're getting someone who has really, really good stuff, and at the absolute worst, there's a track record with this organization of turning these guys who are kind of fringe starters, relievers with good stuff into elite bullpen arms, and I think that's the absolute floor right now for DL Hall. He's going to be a really good bullpen arm for this Brewers team, which we know they absolutely love to get. And again, you have him until 2030. He's going to be free. This is clearly a way for the Brewers to maintain a major league roster. Theoretically, they're not getting so much worse, even though they are. But from like an X's and O's, numbers, money standpoint, like this is a smart move, but from me, like, no. I mean, you don't trade Corbin Burnes for these guys. I never would. The only reason you're trading him is because you're not going to re-sign him, you're not going to pay him, and you want to get some value back. God forbid he were to get hurt during the season. You can't trade him at the deadline. You'd feel really stupid, kind of like they did with Brandon Woodruff a little bit. I'm sure they got a little bit scared the fact that Brandon Woodruff all of a sudden wasn't going to pitch for a year, and they're like, well, that's great. We wasted this opportunity. And then the 34th overall pick, I mean, that is basically a first-round pick in the MLB Draft. I think that's pretty valuable. There have been some really good players taken in those spots the last couple seasons. And for the Brewers, who have done a pretty decent job with the draft the last few years, I mean, you've seen Joey Wiemer, Sal Frelick, Garrett Mitchell. I might be missing a couple guys. Sorry about that. Just going off the top of my head right now. They've already made the majors, and guys that have been drafted since 2020. I think the Brewers probably know what they're doing there. So, yeah, this sucks as a Brewers fan. I'm sorry. Again, I hate when I see teams get rid of their stars because of a decision where they don't want to pay the guy, even though they very much deserve it. But right now, totally understand being frustrated, and I don't blame you. You give up one of the better pitchers in your franchise history for a couple 25-year-old controllable infielder, reliever, fringe guys. But if you're the Orioles, this makes you a dangerous team. Automatically, you guys were a World Series contender in the American League just because of how good that team was just without Corbin Burnes. And now with Corbin Burnes, this team is scary. If they can stay healthy, if they can keep playing the baseball that they did last year, keep that young energy going, Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, just to name a few studs on that team, along with Corbin Burnes, Grayson Rodriguez, and Kyle Bradish, and Dean Kramer, and John Means, it's a really good rotation. Keep it out for the Orioles. I mean, I don't think I need to tell you this, but This team's going to be really, really good. I'd love to know what you guys, though, are thinking down in the comment section below. What do you think about this trade? Do you like what the Orioles got? You think Corbin Burnes is going to be that difference maker, or do you think the Brewers sold at the perfect time, got a ton back for him? I don't know. I don't know how you think that, but maybe it is what you think. Let me know down in the comment section below. Drop a like on the video if you do enjoy it, as well as subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of the content coming at you. Follow me on all my social media at DraftNickMark. Links are in description. Yeah, that's where I'll wrap it up, guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel and just clicking on a video late on a Thursday, February 1st. Yeah, appreciate you guys. You know the drill from here on out. YouTube recommends you watch this video, and this is my most recent upload. So click through those if you have not yet seen them. I promise they're good. Like, when I make my videos, they're pretty good, I think. Bye.